The median sales price for single-family existing homes rose in 99% of 183 measured market areas in the third quarter, which is a double-digit price increase in 78% of the markets. From 1 year ago, the median sales price for single-family existing homes rose 16% to $363,700, 22.9% in the prior quarter, which is an increase of $50,300. With higher home prices, the monthly mortgage payment on a typical existing single-family home with 20% down payment increased to 16.6% of a median family income. All of this according to the National Association of Realtors. Tony Acosta is a real estate broker in Utah, and he joined me this week to review some national real estate trends and to share his inspiring and encouraging story on how he got started on his successful real estate career. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Hey Tony, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the show, and I'm excited to learn all about your journey in real estate. Great to be with you this afternoon, and thank you so very much for being here.
Absolutely.
So Tony, I know that your journey in real estate didn't take the conventional path, and it's sort of something you stumbled across into something that you grew a passion for. So I'm wondering if you could tell me all about your journey in real estate, buddy, and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Great question. You know, as you said, my journey in real estate was a little bit unconventional, kind of in the sense that I never wanted to be a real estate agent per se. It wasn't something that I had planned. It wasn't something that was ever on my radar. But, you know, surprisingly, one of my parents' high school buddies was a very successful agent. He was already a top producer. He was a broker. And so we ran into him at a burger joint, and he was kind of looking to expand his team. He had a lot of clients, so he needed someone to kind of help with some of the tasks, from showing homes and, you know, doing walkthroughs and things like that. And so he offered me to come on, kind of showed me a little bit the potential that could be had within real estate. And I thought it was a good idea. My parents thought that it was a good idea. I was 21 years old at the time, didn't have too much going on. And so I decided to get started. And that was kind of my start. You know, I had the blessing of being able to have exposure with a lot of different clients, thanks to my broker at the time. So I was able to learn really quickly, get to learn, you know, different people's situations, different, you know, purchases, listings, and things like that. And so I think that that really helped me to gain a lot of experience in a short period of time, and then be able to now, you know, pass all of that knowledge and experience on to our clients today.
Yeah, fabulous. And I also know that you're a member of the Forbes Real Estate Council. So tell me about what that honor means to you, buddy.
Oh, it's been so much fun. Honestly, you know, the Forbes Real Estate Council, again, I didn't even know that that existed. And then there was another agent in my market that was publishing articles on Forbes, and I thought that that was really cool. So I reached out to him, and he kind of told me a little bit about what the council entailed. There were certain requirements that at the time I did not meet. And so I had to really try to set some goals and try to push myself to meet those requirements and be able to be in the council. But it's been really fun. You know, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most is just learning from other people, learning from other successful agents in other markets, agents in Texas, Florida, New York, California, Seattle, and just being able to pick their brain a little bit and also feel that I can contribute a little bit to them. So, writing articles has been a lot of fun, but for me, the main thing has been just the growth and the learning of people that are doing much more than I am and be able to just take ideas from them and then implement them here at home.
Yeah, fabulous. And tell me, when we look at national real estate trends, Tony, I'm wondering your thoughts on when we look across America, what stands out to you as emerging trends in real estate?
So I think that tech is really going to make a tremendous difference. One of the things that I was talking about on another podcast is that, technology revolutionizes industries, and we've seen it all across the board from Amazon, Airbnb, Uber. These technologies disrupt industries, and so the people within the industry have to adapt. And so one of the things that has happened in real estate is that those technological advancements have been put to use by the brokerages and by the agents in order to streamline their processes. But I feel like it still hasn't gotten to the end consumer in the sense that, there still hasn't been a big tech shift that has taken all of those savings that the brokerages and the agents have had, and it hasn't yet reached the end consumer. So one of the things that I think is really going to make a difference is those savings of being able to use technology to streamline processes and make things more efficient. That has to reach the end consumer. So whatever form that takes, I think is going to be interesting. But now you see a lot of different business models within brokerages to, brokerages like EXP, to where they don't have physical offices, right? It just doesn't exist. Now everything is in the cloud. All of their meetings are virtual meetings, and so there is no physical space. So that obviously makes things a lot more efficient and a lot cheaper also in the long run, because you don't have to maintain big expensive offices. So things like that, where technology can make things simpler for people and also cheaper for people. And I think that when that reaches the end consumer, it's going to be very interesting.
And Tony, you talk about efficiency. I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia propulsive simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And I'm all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we look at that from a real estate perspective, I'm wondering your thoughts on what more the real estate industry can do to sort of cater to individuals with disabilities to make their home buying process, whether it's adapting homes more efficiently. How do you think we can make it more efficient for folks with disabilities to invest in their home buying process effectively and efficiently?
I love that. I think that the most important thing there is a lot of agents just see this as a sales job. And so when you see it strictly as a sales job, if you're my client, I need you to close as fast as I can humanly make you close. And I need to push you to the finish line. And so a lot of agents see it that way. But I've had some experiences with buyers that have disabilities, and there are challenges there. Whether it's I've had clients that have autism, I've had clients that have physical disabilities, and so it takes a little bit longer because, for example, if there's somebody that has a physical disability, they might need a certain kind of home, or the home might need to have certain characteristics. Or if you talk about somebody with, I don't know, a learning disability or a speech impediment, it might be difficult for them to communicate, for them to understand the documents that they're signing, everything that they're getting into. They might have family members that are helping them, and so it does require an elevated level of patience and understanding. And so one of the things that I really push for is trying to change the way that the realtor operates and go from a salesperson to more of an advisor, if you will. And when you think about people more than your bank account, then it kind of opens up so that you can help people that have disabilities. Because I agree 1000% that everybody needs to be afforded the same opportunities. But if the professionals within the industry are just trying to get paid as fast as they possibly can, then they might shy away. They may not want to have the patience to help somebody in a special circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I know for you personally, you're really proud of your Mexican heritage and your upbringing. So I'm wondering if you can express to me what your upbringing has meant, your overall uh, philosophy on life, and how proud you are of your heritage as well.
Absolutely. It's 100% shaped everything about me. It shaped everything about who I am. One of the things that few people know about me is that my mom grew up teaching Latin American folklore dance. And so ever since I was a kid, I was very immersed in the culture. I grew to love the culture, not only of Mexico, but just of Latin America in general. And so one of the things that I have really grown to love about this profession is that for a lot of folks in the Latino community, it's difficult to get ahead. And if you have Latino listeners, they might relate to this. But I remember back when I was a kid, my dad worked really long hours. He still works really long hours. There was a language barrier there. He knew a little bit of English, but not too much. So he was kind of shy when it came to speaking English. And so that obviously presents challenges when you talk about transacting real estate or investing in different things. And so, I've really grown a passion to help people in my community understand what they're doing, understand how to do this correctly, understand exactly what they're getting themselves into. Because when you talk about the real estate system or the financial system, it's very different here in the United States than it might be in Mexico or in Chile or in Argentina. And so people that come from those countries, they have a certain idea of how things are done. And then they get here and they realize that it's very different. And so there is kind of this culture shock to where it's difficult to understand the nuances and the differences. And so being able to help the Spanish speaking community understand these concepts and take advantage of the opportunities has been incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tony, one of the philosophies that I live my life by is that inclusion is the gateway to independence. And I know for you, from a real estate perspective, one of your passions is training other agents to succeed. So I'm wondering if you can tell me all about it.
Yeah, when it comes to training agents, one of the things that I found was, and not just in real estate, right, but just entrepreneurs in general, whenever somebody starts a side hustle or starts a business, there's so much hope behind that decision. You're hoping to change your life. You're hoping to have more time freedom. There's so much hope behind making that jump to be an entrepreneur. And so when you talk about real estate agents, which is kind of my field, I've really enjoyed being able to see them grow and being able to see them, receive greater and greater paychecks, and you kind of start seeing that they can now quit their job, and really their whole outlook on life starts to change because they start to see opportunities that they didn't have before. And so when it comes to agents, just being able to take that hope with which they entered the industry and start to make it a reality is such a rewarding process. And it's really one of the things that I love the most, because again, they come in with hopes and dreams and expectations, and a lot of people fail. A lot of people don't get to where they want to get, especially in entrepreneurship. The failure rate is extremely high. So when I feel that I can contribute even just a little bit to somebody's success and changing their life, and now they can buy that car, they can go on that vacation, they can buy their kids the things that they want, and you see that smile on their face, it just makes all the difference for me.
And Tony, I know that one of your other passions is also living in Salt Lake City. So I want to know, what's the best part about living in the Beehive State, buddy?
Oh, I love Utah. I mean, I've traveled a lot of different places around the world, and Utah's just home. I was born here, I grew up here. I went to school here. One of the things that I love about Utah is when you talk about the weather, for example, it's very unique because we have all four seasons very, very marked, right? Summer is hot and dry. And the spring, it's rainy and it's chilly. And then you have the fall where the mountains turn orange and it's just beautiful and it's windy. And then you have the winter where it's just snow and really cold and ice. And so I love that kind of being able to have all four seasons, right? Also just the community. I feel like it's a very safe community. My kid, he goes outside, he plays on the street, and I've never once been afraid that something's going to happen to him. It's a very safe place. And there's a lot of great people here. I feel like Utah is one of those states that not a lot of people talk about. Not a lot of things go on in Utah. When you talk about Utah, Idaho, not a lot goes on here. We're not California, New York, or Florida, but it's a very peaceful place. It's a very beautiful place. There's so many things to do, and it's just home. No matter where I travel, I always miss my Beehive State.
Yeah, there's no place like home, right?
True. That's right.
Absolutely. And Tony, for anyone watching this who is considering buying or selling a house, what are three things you think they should be cognizant of when they look to either buy or sell a house these days in today's market?
Yeah, I love it. Great question. I think that number one is you have to attach yourself to someone that knows what they're doing, right? Be that an agent, be that a loan officer, whoever the case may be. But there's so many things behind the scenes that happen when you're buying or selling real estate. They're really finding someone that you feel comfortable with and that you feel like they have your best interest at heart. I think that's step number one. Step number two is you yourself try to learn as much as you can. So try to educate yourself, try to really understand, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, whether that be your agent, whether that be your loan officer. Try to understand, things like, what is your loan program? What is the interest rate that they're quoting you? What does that mean? What is included within your monthly payment? Is it a fixed rate? Is it a variable rate? What are the differences between the areas where you're looking? Little things like that. The more educated the consumer is, the better they're going to do. Because when you talk about real estate, these are hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars that are being invested. And if the buyer or the seller doesn't quite understand what is happening, then you can set yourself up for trouble. If you talk about selling a property, what are all of the implications? What can happen? What are the risks? Are you going to have to pay taxes on your proceeds or not? How does that work? So much nuance behind it. And then number three, I would say, understand the market that you're in, right? Understand, are you in a buyer's market or a seller's market? What does that mean? Are you going to have a little bit more patience? If you're a buyer, are you competing with a lot of buyers? So when you understand the market and you set proper expectations, it makes the process so much smoother. So in recap, find someone that you can trust that is a professional. Try to understand your process as best as you can. And number three, understand your market and set proper expectations.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that advice, Tony. It's very insightful and valuable, but I also know for you, one of your major rallying cries and passions in life is taking care of your mental health and making sure that that is also in tip-top shape. So tell me about why that's so important to you.
Yeah, well, first of all, props on your preparation. I can tell you really did your homework, so that's exciting. A lot of podcast hosts do not do that, so great job. Mental health is, to me, probably one of the, if not the most important topic to be addressed within the next 10 years. Because, over the last 10 years, 20 years, physical health has been on the rise. Fitness is really popular. There are gyms popping up all over the place, fitness programs, fitness clothing. So physical fitness has been kind of a huge talking point over the last 2 decades. I feel like now that's kind of established. Everybody kind of understands that you should work out, you should try to go to the gym, you should try to be active. I think that most people understand that and accept that. I think the next step is mental health. What does it take to be mentally healthy? Whether that be therapy, whether that be meditation, whether that be, consuming the right content. What is the kind of plan, or what is the map to greater mental health? In the same way that there is a map for greater physical health, eating better, drinking more water, sleeping better, all of those things are kind of universally accepted now, despite there being nuances with individuals. I feel like the same thing has happened with mental health. So whether you talk about men or women or children, a lot of people are suffering, and they're suffering, in my opinion, because we don't have the skills to fix our issues. We don't have the skill. Nobody teaches us this. They don't teach us this in high school and junior high, even in college. In most cases, you're not going to learn how to address crises, how to address, self-esteem issues, rejection, like that. So there's not really a place where we can learn. So we end up in this place where we're dealing with this stuff around us, and we don't know how to handle it. We don't know how to contextualize it. We don't know how to deal with it. And so within that, we start to make mistakes. We start to project our failures or our insecurities in ways that are not healthy. We start to jump into unhealthy habits that just make it worse. And so I think that there has to be a concerted effort to educate all of us, again, in the same way that we've been educated to some degree in regard to physical health, but really educate us on mental health. How do we improve that? What are some things that everyday people can do to feel better? And I think that once we do that, then as a society, we'll start to get better.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that in-depth perspective on that. But I'm also curious to ask you about first-time home buyers. Prices to get into the market, depending on where you live, are so dramatically different. So I'm wondering your advice to anybody going through this for the first time.
Now, when you talk about first-time home buyers, I think that the most important thing is to understand your numbers. There are a lot of programs out there. For example, here in Utah, there's a very common program. It's called Utah Housing. Utah Housing will basically finance your down payment for you. So you can purchase a property with very little money down, maybe $2,000, $3,000. You can get into a property, but you have to understand the nuances of the program, right? If you talk about a program like that, the rate is going to be higher. So you're going to pay more in interest. So I think that when you talk about first-time home buyers, you want to really, just like I said previously, kind of on steroids, right? So you really want to try to understand what is happening, what are the differences, what are the pros and cons if you do it now. Let's say maybe you don't have a lot of savings, right? So you don't have a full down payment saved up. What are the pros and cons if you jump into it now? If you wait a little bit to save up your money, what are the benefits there? And so really just try to understand. One of the reasons why I try to make a lot of videos on social media talking about different topics, because a lot of folks have a lot of anxiety behind these decisions. But if you can try to educate yourself, try to find good content, and you start to understand what's happening, that you can make better decisions. Buying a property is a big step. It's a big responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned previously, these are very decisions to make, and they're important decisions. Buying a property is a big responsibility. And so the more educated you can be, I think that the better decisions you're going to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Tony, I know that you have a young son, and I know that leaving a positive legacy of both inclusion and change is important to you, for setting an example for him to follow. So tell me, what sort of legacy do you want to leave behind for your son, buddy?
I actually think about that a lot. And I think about a lot of people within my inner circle, a lot of friends, people that I know that have what are called daddy issues, right? Whether through separation or through, situations that are of no fault of their own, but maybe their dad wasn't really present. And so I've seen kind of the damage that can do. And so really my whole commitment to my son is he's going to have his issues because he's a human being. So he's going to struggle and he's going to have his difficulties growing up. But the one thing is that I hope is that he doesn't have daddy issues, that he never has to doubt if he was good enough for his father, or if his father loved him, or if his father cared about him. So I try to live my life that way. I try to live my life in a way that, he can see somebody who cares about others, somebody who, tries to make a difference, tries to help. And, ultimately someone who always believes that he is enough. And, I think that if I can do that, then I've been successful.
Fantastic. And, Tony, if people want to get connected with you, buddy, what's the best way they can do that, Bob?
Yeah, Instagram is usually the strongest social media platform right now. My handle is @_ my name, Tony, the letter V as in Victor, and the number 2. So @_ Tony V2. shoot me a DM. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, but the strongest one is Instagram. So if anybody wants to connect, feel free to reach out on the gram.
Fantastic. Well, Tony, I really enjoyed learning a little bit about your journey in real estate, your love for your Mexican heritage, and how you're hoping to leave a better world for the next generation. I want to thank you for your work in the space of real estate and for joining me this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate you. You have a tremendous day, my man.